big update happened. Yes, it happened. And it was a big one. I mean, we got a bird for Christ's sake, right? Alright. But with new updates comes new problems. 5 things to be exact. Thus, a new video must be created. Now, remember in these videos, I'm going to outline just a few things that I've picked up while playing the game Grounded that need to be corrected or fixed, in my opinion. Now remember, this is all opinion based. I'm honestly probably not even the best person to do it, but I'm doing it for you because I love you. I have posted a video in this past prior to the August update, and I'll actually highlight a few things in this video that I highlighted in that one. Now, if you want to go check that one out, I'll leave a link right there. Ultimately, it comes down to some things can be nitpicky, some things aren't nitpicky. They need to be looked at. So you can end up calling me Captain Nitpick at the end of this. I don't care. I'm going to point them out anyway. Now, before we move on, please remember, if you do enjoy this video at any moment, hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you can be updated anytime I post new content. And if you want a more one-on-one conversation with me, you want to talk to me a little bit, I actually stream every Monday and Wednesday on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Fridays at midnight. So come hang out, come talk about this game, come share your experiences with this game. Now, do remember, I love this game. It is a super fun, great game. These are solely just little things that need to be addressed by Obsidian Studios. Let's get to it. Weapon adjustments. Now, the first things I'm going to show you isn't really about adjusting the weapons, just about the verbiage in the menu. Now, it doesn't tell you that the new feather arrows are better than the normal arrows. Now, I know what you're saying. Obviously, they should be better, but that's not always an obvious case. It's something that should be stated, and I just think a little bit of added verbiage along with describing what the arrow does show us that it does create a little bit more damage, and it's something that if you don't test out, you may never know. And crow feathers aren't easy to come by, so making a whole bunch of arrows, not knowing if it's gonna do better, may not be the correct solution. So this is just something that I feel like they need to take a look at. I mean, I had to go in and test it myself. As you can see, it took 2 arrows to take down a weevil with a normal arrow, even though I'm using the insect bow, which hits harder. Versus when using a feather arrow, it only takes 1 to take him down. Now, like I said, this is something I had to test myself. I was not told that this was the case. Obviously, it should be the case. It's a harder arrow, but you never really know. Now, this is something I am still having an issue with. When it comes to the Spider Fang Dagger and the Larva Blade, the Spider Fang Dagger got a decrease in stun and a slight increase in damage. The Larva Blade is still better because you get that stun. Why is an item that is so easy to acquire versus one that is really hard to acquire even this close in matching? This is something that seriously needs to be dealt with. Moving right along to the second thing I'd like to bring up, and I'm kind of annoyed. Not annoyed, but I've had to bring this up twice now, and sure, it can sound repetitive, but it is something I still feel like you need to check in on. It's the render distance. So when you have an issue where things are popping in at a close proximity, it can cause, well, stuttering, you know, when multiple things happen at once, if multiple creatures pop in at once, especially if they're very large creatures. I just feel like if we extended out the rendering distance just a little bit more, things would have a chance to slowly progress in, or not worry so much about the clarity of the object at a far out rate, such as the blurry grass in the background. Maybe it can be a blurry creature in the background and then eventually takes form, shape. Now, this may be something that they are putting on the back burner that they just haven't necessarily gotten to yet. Maybe it's something that is on the lower end of things because it's not a necessity that this stuff has to be taken care of. Because the game is still very much playable. It is still very much in production and allows you to go in and still create a wonderful game. But it is something that can get a little annoying when you have, multiple things popping in at once. Also, for things such as spiders, stink bugs, bomber beetles, all these things that are, and if people don't know watching this video, these are dangerous things in the game that attack upon sight. So if you aren't looking, and I know looking where you're going, you're supposed to be watching, but that's not necessarily how you always play. Sometimes you hear a noise behind you and you turn your head real quick, but yet you're still walking forward. When you loop back and you see that there's a giant spider in front of you. Well, I mean, that's a problem. You know, it's something that we should be able to see from a distance off, and it's not something that we should have to worry about constantly. And once again, like I said, the stutter, this isn't something that we should have to deal with. But like I said, it doesn't make the game unplayable. It doesn't make it difficult to deal with, and it's not inherently that big of an issue. It is something that I do keep bringing up because it is something that I would like the ability to work myself. Like I said, such as that render distance a meter, you know, something that I can adjust it myself. Just food for thought, you know. Now I threw this one in just to be a little funny, I guess you should say. The new sound cue for the Grub is something out of a horror movie. I'm sure of it. It just sounds so terrifying. Being one of the tiniest creatures in the game, it sounds horrible. It is so terrifying, especially at night and you're strolling through this area and then bam, these things pop up. Tell you what, I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna let you listen. Now that sounds crazy. I mean, I'm sure it's something they'll adjust, but it's just something I wanted to throw in, that how stupid crazy that sound comes across. It is honestly terrifying to hear in mid-game, like I said, especially at night, and then when you didn't know what it was, and you just thought like maybe they're doing, especially because it's a new update, and you're like, maybe they're doing a new crazy bug that just is about to destroy me right now. Just something I wanted to throw in. Anyway, moving on. Now moving right along, we're going to talk about one of the newer items in the game, feathers. Now feathers are obviously dropped from the bird, the new large animal in the game, who you really don't get to make much contact with other than seeing him high up in the air and dropping feathers across the map. Now these feathers are few and far between, so do not assume that you're going to find a ton of them, because you won't. And for every feather piece you do find, you only get one piece from it. It's a giant feather, and I get one use out of this giant feather that I found. At least when you knock down, you know, a giant, let's say, grass blade, you get multiple pieces of grass blades, parts that you can use from it. I mean, the marksman cap alone is 3 feather pieces. So that means I have to find 3 separate feathers across this map to eventually make this thing. Moving right along to the feather arrow, it's 1. You're going to lose this thing in a second. So this just goes to show you that this is something that does need to be addressed. I feel like it's a giant feather, which you get, I'm not saying you give me a substantial amount, but at least 4 or 5 out of 1. Give me something that I can create at least a few arrows from. Being that the arrows do have significant more damage, I'd like to be able to create a large sum of them. Now, maybe this will change in the future. Maybe when we get to attack the bird or something like that, they'll drop plenty of feathers from said bird. But right now, it's a problem, because I get 1 piece per stupid feather. Fix it now. Last but not least, let's talk about the backpack. Now, I love a good backpack in a game. Allows me to carry a bunch of things, but it gets really cluttered really quickly. So the biggest thing is your armor, your gear. If I put armor on, it should remove it from my backpack. It is no longer in a backpack. It is on my body. So it shouldn't be considered contents of the backpack. Now, I'm not saying this goes the same for weapons that you equipped and things like that, because that can get kind of crazy, but armor should not be in the backpack anymore. Because once you start having, you know, a set of armor, arrows, all of your tools needed for, excavating and collecting materials, your bow, a gas mask for the gas areas, torches. It builds quickly, and you run out of a ton of room. So this is something that really needs to be looked at, because this is super annoying. If I put it on my body, it shouldn't be in the backpack anymore. Plain and simple. That's it.